welcome everyone to Today in the Scene by Indie Arcade Wave. I'm Joe, your host, and here on In the Scene, we dive into what's happening in the arcade space, from new indie arcade developers, arcade owners and operators, and just news in the space in general. Now, if you're looking to bring an indie arcade game to your collection, the website is live. We've got 13 games on there. You can hit the Buy Now button. If that doesn't work and take you directly to a website, scroll down, go to the contact section, fill in the information, and you will get in touch with me, and we will get you the game that you want. Now, we've got some indie developers coming back on the show. We've already had them on a few times to talk about the early indie games from the Xbox 360, as well as Street Cleaner 1, and now they're releasing their newest game, Street Cleaner 3. We got Brooks and Jesse from Creaky Lantern Games. How you guys doing?
Hello.
Hey, doing great.
I'm happy to have you guys back on. I'm excited to talk. I haven't played Street Cleaner 3 yet. I did just download it. I bought it on Steam and downloaded it onto my computer, so I'm playing after this. But just introduce yourselves. Who's Brooks? Who's Jesse? And kind of how did you guys start making games?
All right. Well, I'm Brooks. I'm the developer, artist, programmer at Creaky Lantern. I'm kind of just the brains idea guy. Get the stuff together.
I am Jesse. I'm a musician and a video game enthusiast to a crippling degree, and I write and perform music under the name Street Cleaner. That is a project that Brooks helped me start a while back, and we've joined forces in Creaky Lantern Games along with another friend of ours, and I think we're like a three-way yin and yang that between the skill set of each of us, we complement each other pretty well, and we decided to all start working on games together.
Yeah, and I loved the first Street Cleaner game. Played it a bunch, super fun. And speaking of Street Cleaner the musician, all of the music on the channel is Street Cleaner. That's everything that I'm using for the walkthroughs and the outros and everything. So shout out to you for having awesome music and letting me use it in the first place.
Thank you.
Let's dive into the game.
I have to write you an original song is what I have to do, and I think I had to. I had to have done it like a year ago. So.
Man,
it's coming.
Happen.
It's coming. The game's out. The game's done now, so I can actually work on something else now. So
perfect.
Let's
So
do
original music for the outro and intro video. I'm ready for that. You guys already have a game out. You released Street Cleaner 1. What was that, like 2 years ago? About
4 years
ago.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
4.
So now you've moved on to Street Cleaner 3. You skipped 2. I don't really know the story on that. But let's just dive into what did you learn from the first release to the second release?
Well, actually, I can start with the Street Cleaner 3 thing if you want. Okay. So, Street Cleaner, the first game, is kind of we'll go a little further back. So, Street Cleaner as a musical project is Jesse deciding that he liked 80s vigilante movies, classic 80s action movies, like your Death Wish kind of stuff, and your Terminators and all the good stuff. And you wanted to write the soundtrack to an 80s movie, and didn't have a movie to write, so we ended up just writing a soundtrack to an 80s movie that didn't exist, and that became the Street Cleaner project. So we were talking after that, and I was joking around that back in the 80s, if they'd had this summer blockbuster movie series that was super popular, they totally would have sold off the video game rights to make a quick buck, right? And that's how you end up with your LJN stuff. So we decided, well, let's just actually make the video game. So we ended up with a video game that is based on a fake movie series that is based on a real musician. That's the whole thing that I tell everyone. So that's the genesis of the first game, Street Cleaner 1. So when we were doing that, of course, since it's 80s, we decided, well, we're both big original Nintendo fans, so it's just a perfect fit to make the Street Cleaner game a Nintendo throwback. So we kind of took stock of what our favorite Nintendo games were, and one of the odd ones among them ended up being the Sunsoft Batman game that we kind of ended up agreeing on. And that was like the base inspiration for the original Street Cleaner game. But then we just kind of cribbed from everywhere we could. So, there's a bit of Ninja Gaiden in there. There's a bit of Mega Man. There's a bit of DuckTales. Just all stuff that we love. So there's the first game. So coming out of that, after we finished it, we were thinking about what to do. And it's like, well, easiest thing would be like just continue riding this wave and do a sequel. But we were thinking in the NES days, we look back and we're thinking about sequels of those games that we love. And and you start thinking about, Legend of Zelda, Castlevania, Super Mario Brothers. And there's a weird thing where a lot of those first sequels, the devs went and they just tried something crazy out there, right? Like Castlevania 2, they went away from the stage-based stuff, and that's the genesis of the Metroidvania exploration thing. You've got Legend of Zelda 2, same deal, just expand it, and it's just a big, weird open world. And then, Mario 2, of course, the famous story of taking a different game that existed and just dropping Mario on it. So that ended up being weird. But then you get the third game in those series, like Mario 3, Castlevania 3, that end up being kind of like the quintessential versions of those games. So that's a long way to say that we looked at that and we thought, we're just going to skip 2 and make the best Street Cleaner game, the best sequel. And that's where 3 comes from.
Yeah, just cut out the weird one.
Yeah, I mean, that makes perfect sense. You're right. They kind of like experiment on 2 and then take the elements they liked from 2, but they basically remake 1 and just make it better than the first one.
Yep.
So yeah, if you just cut out that weird game in between, right?
Yep. So whenever like everyone looks and they see 3 and they start like freaking out and going like, what happened to 2? Did I miss 2? Or people that have never seen the game before, it's like they start looking it up and they're like, where's 2? Kind of what? So what we decided we do is anytime anyone asks where Street Cleaner 2 is, we make something up. So someone asks, where's Street Cleaner 2? And I say, oh, that was an open world fishing game. And and it had the tagline of you've cleaned the streets and now it's time to clean the oceans, right? That kind of thing.
Yeah. Or like it was a VMU game or something like that, or nothing is too ridiculous. I think my favorite so far is that it was a Waffle House placemat puzzle. Like for kids
maze.
to like. Yeah, that was the official licensed Street Cleaner 2, and we'd made up enough of them to where I was thinking like we should create like a document where we just have a list of all the ones we made up. But rethinking it, I think that we should just leave them all in the comments of a Shattered Rift video on YouTube and just blow it up. Like 900 different stories of Street Cleaner 2 on there.
Why not, man? Just do whatever you want to do. I mean, just have fun with it, right? That's the whole idea. Like we're here to make and play games because they're fun and we want to have fun with them. So whatever you do in the space to have fun with them, why not? Like.
Yeah.
So one other thing that I love about the game and I'm excited about was back when I saw you live, Jesse, and you were playing in St. Paul, you asked me to record a soundbite basically on your phone for the game. This was years ago before I even knew what you guys were going to do with this. And so you threw all these Easter eggs in on the phone booths, which are save points, but now you can actually call in. So tell us a little bit about how that idea came to be and how can you call me in the game?
So the phone booths, the pay phones, they exist in Street Cleaner 1 as checkpoints, and we carried that over to Street Cleaner 3 as well. Only now the phones are dialable, but that's not immediately explained. Hopefully, the hope is that people will play through the game normally vanilla, and beat the game. Because once you do that, man, am I giving away too much? You can hold up on any payphone. You can dial a number, and so when I hit and it's for a myriad of different reasons, but we figured while we had that put together, we would go ahead and add some cameos. We would have some people that we know record like voicemails, like "Sorry, I can't get to the phone right now" or something. And so you're actually the very first person that I had recorded to do one of those. And yeah, we did it in person. I held my phone up to you and recorded your voice there. And you, I think, one take improvised an amazing like incoming answering machine thing. And uh, phone numbers are hidden all over in the game for people that are paying attention or who are treasure hunting looking for them. But your phone number is not. You are the master of your phone number. So the only people that are going to be able to find you are people who we can redirect over here, or people who you want to tell what the phone number is. So I don't know if you wanted to tell the listeners right now what your phone number is in the game, but
Yeah, let's tell them.
all right. So if you go to any
So
phone in the game, hold up, you'll be presented with a keypad, and you dial. Go ahead.
555, as all the phone numbers start with, as you said, but then it's 4888, which is a little shortened version of what the Pizza Hut phone number was from when I was a kid. So I always remembered it was whatever your area code was, and then 488 and that was how you called for delivery. So that was why I thought it was kind of funny to just throw that in there, right?
Yeah. So anybody listening, you can go up to any phone, dial that up, and yeah, you're gonna hear Joe with a "Hey yo."
You'll get the intro, and you will have reached the voicemail of Indie Arcade Wave. So that's a cool little thing you guys slid in there, and I know there are more Easter eggs to be found. You guys always have stuff like in the first one you could pet the dog, which I thought was awesome. And there'll be so much more. Let's dive, Jesse. I got a question for you specifically for the music. What's your creative process? Like, how do you make this music, and like what inspiration do you draw from the most?
So what's really neat about Creaky Lantern is that like it's definitely like being able to create art with my friends and being able to like see not just like we understand each other. Like when Brooks comes up with something, there's nothing that's like too like, oh no, that's don't use that, or oh no, that's not good, or anything like that. It's like oh, okay, well let's see where this goes, that kind of thing. And to that same extent, Brooks trusts me to kind of like take the reins when it comes to the trajectory of what the music's going to be for different parts of the game. He did that with the tournament as well, and so like it's always starting off. It always starts off with like several bad ideas or things that are end up being placeholders or whatever. But in the end, it all ends up being cohesive and comes together. And that's like I think the process is just being able to have a team and have people that you could workshop stuff with, bounce stuff off of, and hear that kind of feedback. As for as for this game, like so Street Cleaner, the video game, that was all chip tune. That was all made in Fama Tracker because Brooks had adhered so strongly to the NES restrictions that I felt that I had a duty to do that as well. And we're creating kind of like a authentic NES game. So I was inspired a lot by Jake Kaufman, Vert, with was the Yacht Club games with Shovel Knight and other projects that he'd done where he'd use Family Tracker. So it was pretty neat to go in and pick apart his tracks and see what he did, and then try to kind of like make my own. And that worked for that project. That was great for that project. And then with this one, it was decided that we should just go full blast, full bore. I mean, because if you haven't played the first game, the chiptune aspect of it kind of breaks at the end of the game and reveals like a full spectrum kind of like soundtrack to the game. And then so it would be kind of weird to go back and do chip again with the sequel now that we've broken that layer. And so with this game, each stage has a theme. Brooks has been really great at like designing an aesthetic per stage. If there are assets that go from stage to stage, they're used in a way that continues to keep that aesthetic. So I had a duty write music that complemented that aesthetic, to kind of like feel the vibe of the stages and kind of like see how they felt and how I could write music that would improve that. And so there were some times where like so one stage wasn't a fast run and jump and kind of stage. It was a more of a meticulous choose your path kind of stage. So it was like, okay, so we got to bring this tempo down a little bit. We got to kind of ramp up the tension because it's dangerous now. Our health is to the point where the fourth hit kills you. So we've gotten to there at that point as far as the scaling of the difficulty of the game and stuff. So it was kind of like more important to like make a more dangerous song. Meanwhile, the boss for that same stage is aesthetically very fast, and there's things going by and things just um, sorry, there's something floating. Things that are going by, just like whizzing by you and stuff. And so it was like, okay, so now we have to jump the tempo up, but then how to make that transition from a slow kind of like a sinister, like dangerous song into a, oh, holy crap, we got a fast boss fight going on. And then at the same time, matching the stage aesthetics of, the boss and the surroundings and stuff. It was a really fun challenge. And I think I excel by having challenges put in front of me, parameters and stuff like that. I feel like if I'm given full range to do whatever I want, then my output's going to be sloppy and weird. But if I feel like, okay, so hey, here's these parameters, we want A, B, and C, then as I'm writing the music for that, I can dial this in, and then that aha moment will happen where like, oh, okay, so all right, so here's what I'm going to do here. But then to get it to match this, we're going to, it's kind of hard to explain, I guess, but hopefully I did that explanation justice.
Well, so I'd kind of like to add that Street Cleaner as a music project, like I said, it started out as the 80s action movie, synthwave, kind of at the dawn of what we now know as synthwave as a genre. Like Street Cleaner was kind of at the forefront of that. And since then it's morphed more towards like heavier dark synth stuff, with a lot of like blast beats and moodier synth and stuff. But I also know that Jesse's got like a lot of influences that go beyond that. And I thought this was really neat because it was an opportunity to kind of take Street Cleaner as a music project and branch it out into those other influences that he hasn't really been able to like explore before. So a big one is that I know he's a huge fan of old like Western movie soundtracks, like spaghetti Western stuff, that kind of thing. And so you'll notice one track in the Street Cleaner 3 soundtrack is like a synth Western mashup that I think is really cool. And it's a thing that I've been kind of on him to do like as a whole album for a while. So this is a cool way to like start getting into that kind of stuff. And there's a lot of now Asian influences too, because we're also big anime fans. So pulling in like Joe Hisaishi kind of stuff. A lot of new opportunities here for the project as on the music side.
Yeah,
I
and then
love
like
hearing that.
as far as like the Western, that was actually probably one of the more challenging, if not the most challenging part, is getting a good driving, gamey synthwave song going with that arpeggiated bass and that production, but having that feeling of a spaghetti western, specifically a spaghetti western that uh, Ennio Morricone kind of like feel to it. It really, I think I made about 4 or 5 different attempts, starting fresh every single time, trying to find like click into that vibe and click into that feeling, and going through and listening to Italian Western soundtracks for on end months, trying to pick out, okay, what is it that's giving it, what part of the song is giving it that feel. And then when it clicked and the light went off in my head, I realized that I hadn't considered that they were using timpani, the timpanis, dum, 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 and I was like, there's timpanis all over in this stuff. So once I figured that out, I started finding out how to match that in, and it really gave it that dun dun, kind of like feel, that Western feel, without having whistles and harmonicas and all the stuff that we kind of associate with like the more, you know, clowny Western kind of stuff, I guess. No mouth harp, ding, ding, dong, dong stuff, but keeping it authentic to myself and also making a good track that people could hear. I would love to do a full album or an EP like that, but it was also the most challenging track I had on there. So, yeah, the Mall was another one that was really fun to do because I don't always want to make serious music. Sometimes I want to make happy, fun stuff, like, and and so that was a real big opportunity. I like doing that. That one and the boss fight for that one as well were really fun tracks to put together with all the orchestra hits and the 808 drum kits and stuff like that. The vocal samples was really fun. Uh, but yeah. And then the final track, if I can talk about that for a second, was really neat because it was like I got to assemble like a dream team and get these various musicians that I had wanted to work with to all. So in the first game we went from chiptune, and at the very end of the game it blew up into a full spectrum thing, and I was trying to figure out this whole time how I'm going to do that again. And so to achieve that this time, it was like, okay, so I'm going to get Animal Cannon, who is one of my favorite musicians. I've had the luxury of playing a show with him in Pittsburgh, actually at a place called Black Forge Coffee, but it's a cool venue. And it was really neat to be able to finally play a show with him. And even better that I finally got to work with him, that he did the guitar work on the final track. The bass is done by the bass player from the band Zoth. He's also in a band called Hyperstrike, and he goes by the name Chop Daddy, and he does these tutorial videos on Instagram where he's just like doing some of the most heinous slap bass, and then the drums, that's all live drums recorded by Robbie Whiplash. He's in a handful of bands, the Megatronics, Hansel and Gretel. He was the drummer for Hansel and Gretel. He, from different corners of my life, I don't think any of these people have ever met each other than the fact that all four of us are on this one track together to create this full, epic, heavy metal, synthwave, dark synth, song. So that's what we were able to pull off for that, which was cool.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, there's so much to unpack from that. Like just the collaboration between you and your team, and then collaborating with other musicians you've wanted to collaborate with for so long is just like a dream come true within the game. It's like I feel like the music aspect of a lot of these games is kind of overlooked. Not a lot of people talk about the music, and I think the music that you're making is great, which is super cool. And it's awesome to be able to collaborate with all these other musicians and kind of bring them into the video game space. That's just one aspect of the development, let alone just actually making the game and bringing it to whatever you bring it to, which kind of leads me into the next thing is you guys made a 1-of-1 for an arcade cabinet for the first Street Cleaner. Are you going to do that again for Street Cleaner 3? And if you are, what route are you going to take? Are you going to get another skeleton, or are you going to actually build your own cabinet?
Okay, so we learned a lot.
I think, yeah.
We learned a lot with that was a fun experience with that first cabinet, because the first cabinet was I don't know, Jesse will remember what
it was a Kung Fu Master. It was a Kung Fu Master, Data East Kung Fu Master, 1983, I think, 1983.
Yeah. So the thing about
okay, so
was about arcade
okay. I'm go ahead.
Okay,
go ahead. All right, I'm gonna go. So The thing that I learned about arcade cabinets was in the 80s they made them out of amazing press board. It's not quite that. It's not OSB. It's not oriented stranded board. It's this MDF micro density fiberboard stuff, and that stuff's great and all. But when it gets 30 years old, even if it doesn't have water damage, it becomes very brittle. And so there were multiple times where I had to just cut a piece out, that had broken off, cut it out square, and then, replace that, and then kind of like relaminate it and get it looking good just for the next outing for another part to break off the other side, pieces on the top break off, and now at this point you could just feel it flexing and moving. And so we realized like this is not traveling anywhere anymore. This is not going anywhere. It needs a forever home, and it's probably 4 feet away from where Brooks is sitting right now. So that's its forever home. So I think we had discussed doing a cabinet for 3 and exactly how that would work. And Brooks has a really good idea on how the button layout would be. Having these like almost dedicated character switching buttons and that kind of thing. Whereas obviously going to be a lot more buttons. The first one was just a joystick, 3 buttons, and a start. So this is going to have quite a few more because the actual game itself has shoulder buttons as well as all 4 of your buttons with your right thumb. But Brooks said if we were going to do another one that he was going to make it from scratch, and he's pretty good at it. Yeah. If you look in the background right there, he made that from scratch. So
yeah, you can see back there my candy cab. That is I made that because I always wanted a candy cab. You can probably tell it's shallower than a normal candy cab because it doesn't need to fit a CRT in it. So, I mean, it's just a PC running some stuff, but I love the aesthetic and learned a lot on that, and learned also a lot from us hauling around this actual big standing cabinet. Because for the people that don't know, the street cleaner cabinet actually went to street cleaner shows, and we hauled it around in his trailer.
We trucked it all the way from San Diego all the way up to San Francisco once. Like we trucked it everywhere. I bought a trailer just to move this thing around.
Yeah, so because like I was gonna say, the thing I learned about arcade cabinets is like they're nice, they're constructed, and materials are picked for an arcade cabinet to stand there and withstand kids beating on it. They are not made to withstand moving into a trailer and being hauled around every couple weeks and set up in a bar and taken away after that. So I've actually got plans for a new cabinet for for Street Cleaner 3 and probably like just for stuff going forward, because I don't want to do like a full stand-up cabinet, because the whole point is that like we needed a whole trailer to haul this thing around. So I've got ideas for making just kind of like a collapsible cabinet. So it'll mostly just kind of be like you can imagine the candy cab that just slice the top off of that and to kind of do like a big stand-up bar top, and then
like a pedestal.
Yeah, a collapsible pedestal, so that we can just actually stick it in the back of a car and take it around.
Yeah,
doing
that would be the move.
Sorry.
Go ahead. I'm just
saying, arcade
that
cabinet,
would be the move.
As far as like a promotional device for our game, and and bringing it. So playing shows is neat because we have people that already want to be there, that are familiar with Street Cleaner, or even if they're not, hopefully after the set they will be. And there are so many people that are like, whoa, there's a Street Cleaner video game. We've had people that are converts, or recruited from live shows and stuff. But it's a great tool for that, and it's fun to have. But I have a level of love for authenticity. Having owned a handful of arcade cabinets in my life, I still have my Neo Geo 4 slot right behind Kenny Loggins there. He's on the other side of the wall. But I have this thing where like, no, I want to have my CRT. I want to have my cabinet. I want to dial in, my everything. I want it. But as far as bringing stuff out for promotional things, people don't really give a crap too much about the authenticity when they are interacting with something outside of an arcade environment. And that's something that I definitely learned bringing, a big, giant Data East arcade cabinet with me everywhere.
Yeah, and lugging those things around it's no small feat. I mean, we took Galactic Battleground to 12 arcades in 14 days, taking it from Minneapolis to Dallas and back. And holy cow, man, like we had both the Konami and the tabletop, so we were taking 2 cabinets out every single place we went and putting them back in, and it was nuts. Like to do that again. I mean, I would do it again. It was super fun, but man, like moving those things around is not that enjoyable. So making like a modular pedestal that you can take apart and just have a stand would be excellent. That would really make it a lot easier. So we talked about the game, we talked about the story of how it all became, we talked about the music and the new cabinet that you're going to build for it. So what is your next step with the game? You're going to console, like Switch, like what does that process look like?
Yep. So the Nintendo Switch was always in the plan because the first game we managed to get that on Switch, self-published, which was really cool. And so since I've got all the hardware and I've got the access, we've been building for the Switch from the start. So it runs on it. I've just got to go through all the whole process to submit and test, and we'll get it up on there.
Yeah, that's it's pretty much, understood from inception that, this is a Switch game, and we're really grateful that so many people have embraced the Steam Deck, because it seems like a really popular way to play the new game. And uh, obviously, PC is, those are there are two areas that we really want to, publish on, that we want to be on. As far as going to other consoles like PlayStation or Xbox, it doesn't really seem like the time investment into getting it onto those platforms, not just financial but time investment, would be something that we should probably do, when we could use that time to maybe work on another project, work on other things, make progress on things that are a higher priority to us.
Yeah, I think you guys are on the right path with that. Like, I'm just thinking of Armed and Gelatinous. They started in the arcade space and they released onto console. They did Steam, Switch, Xbox, and PlayStation. And they said by far Switch was the easiest to work with, the easiest deck to get, the least amount of hassle to like actually get the game published. And it doesn't have a lot of stuff that like Xbox and PlayStation require you to have achievements and like all this extra stuff that just eats up more development time. And they basically were like, if we ever released another game, it would only be Switch. Like we wouldn't mess with the other consoles. It's not worth the time. So it seems like you guys are on the right path with that, and I'm glad that Switch is the plan. I mean, I know you guys just released the game, but what are future plans? Like, what else do you guys have kind of cooking right now?
Well, I mean, every game developer has 1,000 game ideas, right? So we're
At
no
least
different.
1,000 unfinished projects, right?
Yeah. Like, so in
Brooks
fact,
has 1,000 playable unfinished projects
yeah.
in some one form or another. I just want to point that out.
So in fact, as a promotional thing for Street Cleaner 3, Jesse made a completely original uh like video game magazine, right? So he he wrote a whole bunch of articles and did, yep, there it is right there.
Yeah.
So he it started as just kind of a joke. I asked him to say, yeah, no, it would be really cool if you did like a 2-page spread that was like a fake video game spread, as just like an advertisement thing that we could put up on places. That would be really cool. And he went off and he
Yeah.
did that, and then he just started making more. They just made more
I
and more
have
and
a
more
I
until
have
it
a
was a full magazine.
hyperfixation problem where when I get excited about something, I have a tendency to just run with that thing, And so, well, yeah, what started out with like, okay, well, yeah, I'm going to do this 2-page spread thing, but I'm also going to make like a fake little fluff page in the beginning, and then it just kept going and going and going and going, and before long, we had pretty much a small magazine's worth of stuff. But yeah, keep on
Yeah,
going.
but part of the point of that was that, like, while he was working on this, he started asking me for, okay, what can we put in the magazine? And finally he hit on the idea of like, okay, we'll start like, send me stuff from your old projects. So if you get the magazine, you will see that there are a bunch of like promotional stuff for games that are projects that I started and did not finish. uh,
Yep.
Although one of those glory gunner there is a thing I'd like to do. That's when I do want to to complete, which is a shoot 'em up that I was going to do before we moved over to Street Cleaner. But in addition to that, I've also got, I think, front runner for our next project is I've got an idea for kind of more like a top-down Zelda-like kind of thing, but we've got some interesting inspirations for that one. And then my long-term goals are the reason I got into video game development to begin with is because I've got an RPG, like a story that I want to tell through Japanese-style console RPG. But it turns out, if you ask anyone who's ever tried to do this, RPGs are the hardest thing you can try to do. So, advice to anyone out there: if you've got an RPG you want to make, don't get into game development and do that as your first thing. Like, do other stuff first, because you will never finish an RPG at start. But that's a long-term thing.
That's good advice. I mean, you're right.
Yeah.
Those are the games that have the most depth and need a team of people to build it out, and then
Yeah.
it takes a lot of time. I mean, there's nothing quick about those games. That's pretty much all I had for you guys.
Myself,
Go ahead,
I'm
Jeff.
chomping at the bit to write the soundtrack to an RPG. Like I would relish the opportunity to just really get into the weeds and make just I'm talking like an interwoven leitmotifs and like oh man like it's going to be like Charlie Day with the planner on the wall with all the strings attached to everything. Like I'm gonna get in there. I'm gonna get in the weeds. It's gonna be awesome.
It's a big project. It's definitely could be something super fun to take on. That's pretty much all I had for you guys. Like I really appreciate you coming on, telling the story of Street Cleaner and just hyping up the new release. I'm excited to play it. So shout out social medias. Where can people follow along, and where can people play the game right now?
It's on Steam. We can access everything through creakylantern.com. That'll get you to the links to the game, to our social stuff. We're on Blue Sky, we're on YouTube, we're on Facebook. So like I said, yeah, Steam, place to get it right now. Coming to Switch pretty soon, as fast as we can.
You can check out Street Cleaner at anywhere where there's music. Just type in Street Cleaner, 2 words. If you type in 1 word, you're gonna get a Godflesh album from the '80s. So 2 words, Street Cleaner. You'll probably know which one's me. And that's where you can find music's at. But right now I'm just pushing the streetcleaner3.com URL. You need to go to.
That's where it's at, man. I'm gonna throw all those links down in the description so people can check you guys out. Definitely go get the game, play the game. If you haven't played the first one, you guys have a bundle on Steam right now, don't you, for both of them?
There's actually 2 bundles. There is one bundle that gets you both games with a 10% discount, and there's a bundle that includes both games and both soundtracks for a 15% discount. And those are the Steam complete the set bundles. So if you own the first game, you can still take advantage of the bundle and get everything else for the reduced price.
That's awesome. I mean, that's what I did. I already owned Street Cleaner 1, so I bought 3 with the bundle, and totally worth it. Again, thank you guys for coming on. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you're still watching. The wave will continue to grow, and we can all ride it together. Go grab Street Cleaner on Steam right now and Switch in the near future. And if you're looking to bring an indie arcade game to your collection, jump on the website, scroll through the 13 games we have on there, hit the buy now button. If it's not there, go down to the contact me, and we'll get in touch there. But until next time, peace.